Hey guys, Civilord here, back again with one action figure review. And if you haven't figured it out already, open your eyes, dang it, because today, taking a look at the Sesame Street Ultimates Count Von Count, brought to us by the fine folks over at NECA Toys, not to be confused with the Palisades Toys prototype that was never released. That said, fun fact, if you go back to the early days of Ye Old Overlord Productions channel, this channel, not the other channel that your boy lost, unfortunately, a lone tier for the old channel, you will see and or find that I do actually have a review of the old Palisades Toys Uncle Deadly. He came with a little skull and a little ghost that you could easily use with Count Von Count here, because the ghosts look the same on both Sesame Street and the Muppet Show, since they were designed by the man, the myth, the legend, Jim Henson, the master of Muppets. So, with that being said, I got this guy from my local Target from that whole haul-a-thon fiasco, which actually wasn't too bad this time around. A lot of the stuff was readily available. Like, this guy was around, the Michael Myers was around, Pee Wee Herman was around. Of course, there were Ninja Turtles around, but who cares about that crap? Why don't we cut right to the chase and get into the meat and taters of this review and take a look-see at all the Count Von Count has to offer in terms of accessories, starting off with a pair of two grip hands. Okay, that's enough of that. You guys know I can do a good Count Von Count impression. It's not hard to see or hear, as I'm sure some of you have gone deaf from it. But he's got a pair of grip hands, kinda, sorta. Are they grip hands? They look like turn your head and cough hands, but the thumb isn't out enough. But either way, he's got these kind of balled up hands, nonetheless. And his hands do have like the felt texture to them, which is pretty sweet, I'm not gonna lie. That's a nice detail. I will say, compared to the Uncle Deadly, which, by the way, upon opening that figure, he reeked of sulfur. Don't know why, don't care why. He doesn't smell like that anymore because I've had him for several years now. But yeah, he stunk when I opened him. But that figure does have a butt ton of texture on it. I'm curious how the Diamond Select version stacks up. Half tempted to check it out just because Uncle Deadly doesn't get a lot of merch, let's face it. But as far as Count's other hands go, we have him counting the number 1 and the number 2. Not the number 1 hand I would prefer, but Sesame Street was made for children, so I guess that's why. We also have a hand with number 3. You could argue that the hands on him are for the number 4, but for the number 2 hand, we get this very depressed looking number 2. Not sure if that's because it is a number 2 and number 2 is slang for poo, but he doesn't look very happy to be here. Almost as if Count Von Count's plotting something, because if you take a gander at his alternate head, which this is actually the head that comes packaged on him, not only did they do a fantastic job replicating Count Von Count's likeness, right down to his eyebrows that kind of stick up, and his monocle. He looks like he's plotting something. He looks very sadistic. That must be a vampire thing, but there you go. So, who will I turn into my army of the night today? Tonight, whatever. We also get this candelabra. Just grip hands. I mean, if you heat it up, maybe you could get that in there. I guess if you heat it up, you could probably get that to stay in there. It actually stays in there kind of loosely, but it's got 4 candles on it. So again, he's got 4, 2, and then one of the coolest accessories, 1 telephone. It's an old school telephone with the dial and the wire on it. You can actually take it off this base here. Finagle it, but wires wrapped around for storage reasons, but there you go. Gets a little handy dandy old school telephone. Hold on a second. Somebody's calling me here. Hello? Hello? Oh, hey, what's up? Oh, okay, I'll tell him. That was your girlfriend telling me how good these nuts felt in her mouth last night. So, moving on. I crack myself up sometimes. Moving on to the Count Von Count himself. Why don't we actually move him over a little bit and bringing another vampire character from the fine folks over at NECA Toys. This is, of course, Bela Lugosi as Dracula, because he's the only other vampiric character I have from NECA right now. The Vampire Shredder from the Universal Monsters TMNT crossover line is not out yet, unless, wasn't there one for Holothon that was in red or something? Either way, that one's not available yet, and I don't have the Christopher Lee Dracula or Nosferatu as the time I'm recording this video. So Bela Lugosi's what we got, and if NECA has proven anything to us, other than the Four Horsemen, they are the kings of making pretty awesome vampire figures. Like, this Bela Lugosi was one of my top 13 figures of whatever year he came out. Was it 2023? And I'm sure if I had the Nosferatu or the Christopher Lee Dracula, those would definitely be up there as well for 2020 fella. We also had London After Midnight. I'm not 100% sure if he's a vampire, but he looks like one. Nah, he's like a Jack the Ripper meets Nosferatu craziness, but I just figured I'd bring him in for comparison because I don't have my Uncle Deadly handy for comparison, but I will tell you that these Sesame Street figures from NECA were developed and worked on by some of the people from Palisade, so if they have some of the same attributes and even scale in some cases, that's probably why. That said, this is the alternate head. You have to heat this sucker up to pop it on. It's nice and tight, but he's smiling. His mouth is more open. You can actually prick your finger on his fangs there. They're not sharp, but there. His nose is very pointy. His ears are very pointy. His eyebrows are very pointy. Separate glued on pieces, but they are soft. And his monocle is also a separate glued on piece attached to his nose there. His cape actually attaches just like Bela Lugosi Dracula's. It's got the little clip that goes into the collar on the back there. It stays in there for the most part, but if you start moving things around too much, it could pop out. It's not a very tight fit, but it will stay if you just stick it on a shelf and leave it alone. Or, you know, super glue the sucker in there if it bugs you that much. It doesn't bother me too much, so I'll let it slide. But as far as his articulation goes, the Count Von Count has a double ball peg in the neck, so you can get all kinds of range out of that. He can tilt pretty well. He can look down a little bit. He can look up a little bit. He can rotate. Oop. And get caught on his collar, because it is a funky shaped collar there. Still in there. Shoulders can go out about, you could probably pull off a T-post, but that's as far as I'm going to push it. Push it back down. You can rotate it forward and back. He's got a single jointed elbow here. That works just fine with rotation. His wrists are on swivel hinges, as you could tell earlier, but his cape has these little rubber bands that go around his hands, so when you lift his cape up, he does the whole Batman thing. But I will tell you, I wish they used something else, just like a piece of black thread even, or even, is it nylon? I think the Four Horsemen use nylon in their soft goods. I would have much rather have had something like that, because the longevity of these rubber band pieces, I doubt it's going to last 10 years. Plus side, the cape is wired still, so you can pose it. So you should have no problem posing the cape with his arms, as long as you have the cape like up with his arms, because the wire does feed through this collar, it actually goes above the tab that plugs into the back. And if you super glue this collar in, then it's going to be extra stable. So, you know, take that into account when you're messing around with this figure. You want to be careful with those rubber bands. They're not like fragile, but they are eventually, inevitably, it's just the nature of the beast, probably going to dry rot and just disintegrate. So keep that in mind. He does have a diaphragm joint, for lack of a better term. I think it's in his diaphragm. That's where it feels like it's shifting around, but it's a ball joint. Works okay. Hips. Well, let's see here. Can kick out. Okay. He's count on count. He doesn't need to be doing the splits. Kick forward and back. He's got a thigh cut. He's got a single jointed knee with rotation. Not the tightest thing on mine, but not the loosest either. They're about the same actually. And then he's got ball hinge ankles, so he can rotate and hinge back and forth, and also rock. No toe joint, but he doesn't need it. And then he's got the peg holes at the bottom of the feet. I do believe, I do declare. So there you go. That is it for the Count Von Count. This is definitely a figure of the year for me so far. I love this thing. This figure is awesome. I'm really tempted to get some of the other characters, because Sesame Street was a big part of my childhood, as I'm sure it was most of you watching. It's basically one of the few shows that stood the test of time, right up there with like Scooby-Doo, which has been around for almost as long, if not longer. So yeah, man, that's a really good figure. Really good. So before we wrap this sucker up, because again, there's not much I can do for comparisons with this guy, other than, of course, our two regulars. How's that for a segue? The Mythic Legion's Brother Mandibolith, and the infamous 11 Spawn, who, as usual, towers over everyone, especially in this case, because Count Von Count is a little short. He's a wee bit on the short side, so that makes sense, though. The Sesame Street and or the Muppet characters, they're always on the short side. That's just how they were. They're about the same size as the kids, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know. It's been a while since I've watched Sesame Street, because I'm a grown-arse man. That said, wish list for this line, other than getting the main cast before, I don't know, 2-3 years in, Gargoyles. I would love to see Frazzle. He's like this little hairy orange monster guy with a unibrow and big arse teeth. Carried around a teddy bear, he had a big round nose. His tongue was also hanging out, and he had a tendency to go. So that would be like my wish list deep cut choice. Other than that, you know, I'd like to see Super Grover and Mr. Snuffleupagus. If I were to pick some main characters, they've showed off Big Bird, Oscar the Grouch, and Hairy Monster, who I'm not quite sure who that is. I don't think that's Frazzle. I think Frazzle was Frazzle and Hairy Monster's somebody else. And then, of course, Bert and Ernie, the odd couple, are also available. So it's looking to be a pretty solid line. I'm curious what the future will bring. Hopefully it'll go better than some other NECA Toys endeavors, but only time will tell. So with that being said, it is time now that we wrap things up with some final thoughts. Overall, and much like the other vampiric characters the fine folks over at NECA Toys has given us, whether it's Nosferatu, Dracula, either the Bela Lugosi or Christopher Lee versions, and if I'm not mistaken, London After Midnight, I do believe that is a vampiric character as well. They just seem to have found their groove when it comes to characters like that, because Count Von Count is no exception to the rule of pretty bussin' vampiric character figures that, once again, the fine folks over at NECA Toys has given us over the past couple of years or so. So, with that being said, hope you guys enjoyed this review. Until next time, I'll catch you guys later.